They laughed when you bled. They waited for your cry. They prayed for your downfall. But you didn't fall. You disappeared. And what returned? Not the victim, but the storm. They expected you to scream. They expected you to beg, to crumble, to throw your hands up and say, "I give up." That's what they were counting on. Your collapse, your surrender. That would have been the final laugh, their reward. But you didn't give them what they wanted. Instead, you gave them nothing. Silence, absence, a vanishing act. And that, my dear, is where the real power begins. See, they don't fear your tears. They expect them. They feed off of your pain like leeches sucking on your vulnerability. But when you go quiet, when you vanish without warning, without excuse, without a hint of explanation, that's when they start to panic. Because silence is unpredictable. And unpredictable things, they're dangerous. They don't know where you are. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what's coming next. And that right there is your power. You didn't break. You transformed. You left behind the shattered pieces and became something else. Something colder, smarter, harder to find, harder to control. You vanished, and the world felt it. The echo of your absence shook the foundations of those who thought they had power over you. Because when the puppet cuts its strings, the puppeteer is left confused, powerless, holding nothing but air. They labeled you weak, didn't they? Too sensitive, too emotional, too nice, too soft for a world this cruel. So they pushed you, kicked you, mocked you. They tested you. Because people like them. They test kindness. They see it as softness, as permission. And when you gave, they only took more. When you forgave, they stabbed deeper. When you trusted, they betrayed. That's the game they play. Break the light, then laugh at the dark that follows. But you didn't break. You just went dark. And that's a hell of a lot more terrifying. You see, broken people cry for help, but vanished ones, they're plotting, calculating, rebuilding in the shadows. And when they return, they don't come back the same. They come back sharper, colder, untouchable. The best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's becoming unreachable. It's going ghost while they drown in the silence. No warnings, no messages, just gone. No more reactions, no more explanations, just absence, just echoes, just the void where you used to be. That's when they really start to squirm, because people can fight what they can see. They can gaslight your emotions, twist your words, slap labels on your pain and pretend it doesn't matter. But they can't fight what they can't find. They can't argue with a ghost, can't blame someone who refuses to show up. Can't hurt someone who has already vanished beyond reach. So vanish, quietly, strategically, without a trace. Let them wonder. Let them ache for your presence. Let them question everything. Where did you go? Why did you stop talking? Why won't you respond? Are you okay? Let the questions haunt them. Let the silence eat them alive. People don't respect those who explain. They respect the ones who don't need to. Because explanation is for the guilty. And you owe nothing. Not a word, not a warning, not a breadcrumb of closure. They burned their access to you the moment they doubted your worth. You don't need to prove your strength through shouting matches or bitter speeches. True strength is walking away without turning your head. It's deleting the message before you send it. It's burning the bridge and never once looking at the ashes. They expected a breakdown. You gave them a disappearance. Now they stare into the void where you used to be, hoping for a glimpse, a sign, anything. But there's nothing left for them. Only the shell of a mistake they'll regret forever. You weren't weak. You were loyal. You weren't emotional. You were human. You weren't stupid. You were hopeful. And they mistook that hope for fragility. They mistook your patience for permission. They mistook your forgiveness for fear. Now they're left with a mystery they can't solve, a silence they can't decode, a ghost they can't grasp, because you learned. And the most dangerous version of you is the one who learned through pain, the one who sat alone in the dark and stared into their own reflection, not to cry, but to evolve. You vanished not because you were broken, but because you were done explaining why you kept staying. You were done giving people access to a soul they didn't respect. Let them think you vanished in weakness. Let them believe you crumbled in silence. And when they search for you, let them find a wall. Because now, you've built something stronger than their validation. Self-control. Now you're building in private. Now you're growing where their poison can't reach. No posts, no rants, no explanations, just evolution. The most dangerous transformation is the quiet one. No applause, no announcement, just a clean cut and a colder return. They wanted you to break so they could be the ones to fix you on their terms, but you didn't let them. Instead, you became your own repairman. You stitched yourself up with razor wire and kept walking. You weren't made to stay broken. You were made to rise unrecognizable. And now, you're the version of you that doesn't need anyone. Not their love, not their closure, not their understanding. Let them choke on their assumptions. Let them rehearse apologies you'll never hear. Let them try to reach out, only to find a locked door with no key. Because the new you doesn't open for ghosts of the past. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to show the scars to validate your story. You don't need to post your glow-up to prove you healed. You vanished for a reason. And that reason was you. You chose peace over performance. You chose growth over revenge. You chose to walk away instead of scream into the void. And that silence, that's your power. That's your revenge. That's your freedom. Let them wonder who you became. Let them imagine all the possibilities while you live them in private. Let their curiosity rot in their chest. Let their guilt age like wine in the cellar of their conscience. You didn't disappear because you were scared. You disappeared because you were finished. Finished playing nice. Finished begging to be understood. Finished staying where you were never valued. They don't get access to the upgraded version of you. That version is invitation only. And they lost the privilege. They expected you to beg. You gave them your back. They expected you to cry. You gave them silence. They expected to break you. You vanished. And now, they'll never touch you again. Because the most terrifying person in the world isn't the loud one. It's the one who walks away without a word and never looks back. No goodbye, just vanished. And that's what stings the most for them. Not the fights, not the slams of doors, not the screams or the texts left on read, but the absence, the clean exit, the unspoken goodbye that never came. Because people like them. They thrive on chaos. They love the drama, the back and forth, the push, the pull, the emotional warfare. But when you take all of that away, when you take your energy away, they're left starving. No closure, no argument, no explanation to twist into their version of the truth. Just the chilling realization that they lost something they'll never get back. You became what they never saw coming. You stopped talking, stopped fighting, stopped caring, and disappeared like smoke. No trace, no proof, just distance. And the haunting silence that followed you like a shadow they can't outrun. They expected you to react. You just exited, quiet, clean, and cold. Now the silence screams louder than your words ever did. They used to call you too sensitive, too emotional, too available. But now they whisper your name like a ghost story. Where did they go? What happened to them? Why won't they answer? Because the version of you they knew doesn't exist anymore. You buried that version quietly in the graveyard of past selves they helped destroy. And from those ashes, you resurrected something far more dangerous. A version of you with nothing to prove and no one to please. You're not cold. You're calculated. You're not cruel. You're clear. You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them understanding. You don't owe them you. You gave them the best parts of your soul, your time, your loyalty, your warmth. And they didn't just waste it. They used it against you, like predators smelling blood in the water. But now the blood's dried. The bleeding has stopped. And in its place is armor. No leaks, no wounds, no entry. Because you've become someone who knows that silence isn't emptiness, it's elevation. Your absence is your power. Your silence is your answer. And trust me, it echoes louder than any screaming match ever could. They don't know if you're healing or plotting. They don't know if you're building a better life or preparing for war. They don't know if you're hurting or already completely over it. And that confusion, that uncertainty, that's your revenge. You used to care. You used to explain yourself. You used to try. So damn hard. But there's a day when the switch flips, when the effort dies, when the light in your eyes goes from soft to savage. That day came, and it didn't come with fireworks. It came quietly, like a whisper, like a cold wind before the storm. And in that moment, you decided they don't get to see you fall. They don't even get to watch you rise. You vanish, you rebuild, you rise in silence. And one day, they'll see you again. Not through messages, not through apologies, but through results. Through the version of you they could never control. The one they can't access, can't manipulate, can't even recognize. People think they want closure, but what they really want is access. Access to reopen the wound, access to explain their side, access to see if you're still reachable. Don't give it to them. Let them drown in the what-ifs. Let them spiral in their guilt. Let them rot in the uncertainty. You're not hiding, you're healing, in peace, in silence, in private. And nothing screams, "I'm over it," louder than disappearing without a trace. Let the world underestimate you. Let them gossip. Let them call you cold, arrogant, distant. Good. Let them talk, because you don't rise by responding. You rise by removing yourself. You don't conquer by reacting. You conquer by disengaging. You don't win by going back. You win by vanishing forward. Because when you stop giving energy to what drains you, you stop bleeding for people who would never even offer you a bandage. So here's the truth they never wanted to face. You didn't disappear because you were afraid. You disappeared because you were done. Done entertaining clowns. Done dancing for scraps of attention. Done giving fire to those who only wanted smoke. You vanished not out of weakness, but out of unapologetic evolution. And when you vanish like that, they'll never forget you. Not because of what you said, but because of what you refused to say. They'll remember the silence, the space you left, the way your absence echoed louder than your presence ever did. And long after you've moved on, they'll still be haunted by the ghost of who you used to be. Because you didn't just disappear, you ascended.